Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Edge Concepts. In case you are new to this channel, my name is Aluko. In this tutorial, I'll be implementing this simple gesture animation using React.js and the frame motion animation library. You can see when I hover over this sidebar, the sidebar reveals its contents, it expands and with it. And also there is a slight change in background color. You can see the background color becomes lighter. Without doing so much pre-explanations, let's move to coding. This is the web page without the animation. You can see the transitions are very sudden, and also the sidebar is not increasing in with it, and the background color is not changing. So I'll take you through the file structure of my project. I already have this running in my Visual Studio Code editor. So I have images folder inside the public folder that contains the images. I have two images here, the image of this lady and there's a sky image at the background. And then I have a components folder. Inside here I have folders for my components. I have animation. It contains animation.js. This is where I'll be describing part of the animations. Then I have sidebar. This one is containing the components that are displaying this side navigation bar. Then I have top bar is responsible for displaying the top section, this logo and the icons. So the logo is just a text of my first name. Then the icons are from React icons library. And then the other part, which is this background, the body of my application, I have done that inside the app.js. So maybe briefly, let me describe what I did to achieve this display. I have several divs inside my app.js. The main one is the app, a class name of app. That one has a background of the sky. I have set the background to an image of this, this sky. Then I have background one, which I've set to an image, which is the image of this lady. This is a PNG image, transparent image. And then I have background 2. The background 2 is the overlay. If you're very keen, you discover that there is an overlaying color above the image of this lady. That is a dark blue color, but it is transparent. The reason why I did that is to bring out this contrast, because my text is white. To bring it out, the contrast, I did use the transparent dark or translucent dark overlay. Then of course I have a button with a linear background color. Then for the sidebar, I have these two icons that keep changing depending on the state of my mouse, or where my mouse is. When it's hovered above here, I'm displaying the cancel button. Then when it's out of the sidebar, it is displaying this menu icon. Same to text. The text are displayed when I hover over the sidebar. So right away I'll move to the sidebar. So I have the main div here, which I've named to a sidebar. That is the class name. Then I have a state here I've called it is hovered. When the state is active, I'm displaying the cancel button and my text. You can see I've done conditional rendering there. And when it's false, I'm not displaying the paragraphs in a list, but I'm displaying this menu icon. Now I'll start performing the animations right away. I'll do the animations partly in this sidebar.js. Then the other description, I'll be doing it here inside the animation.js. So first I have to import the basic component of the animation, that is the motion component. Then I'll prefix motion here. So the only thing that I want to describe for this is the width. I want my sidebar to expand in width, and I also want to describe the background color. These two properties are going to depend on this is hovered state. So when the is hovered is true, I should be able to expand it and to make the color lighter. I have a function here, named it toggler, and this function is called whenever I hover. You know, I have two events here, on mouse enter and on mouse leave. So on mouse enter is when this mouse enters this sidebar. Then on mouse leave is when the mouse leaves the sidebar. So in both cases, I call the function which changes the state to opposite of what the current state is. So I'm going to start performing the animations here, and I only want to describe one state, which is the animate state. This should be here. So I'll describe the width. The width is going to depend on this state here. So when this is true, I want the width to be 500 pixels. And when it's false, I want the width to be 50 pixels. Then I'll describe the background color. So when the state is true, I want the background color to become lighter. I have pre-tested this, and my color is supposed to be a string, so it's RGB 23049. Then when the state is false, I'll change the color back to its original color, which is RGB 31737. That there should be a comma. It's supposed to be there, like that. So let me save this. Let me head back to the application and see if the animations are starting to take place here, like that. So this is quite sudden or quite short. I'll control the speed by introducing the duration. So to be able to introduce the duration, I have to introduce the transition prop here. In this transition, I'll describe the duration. I'll set it to 1 second. In that, yeah, it's slower now. So right away, I'll move to describing what happens to this text. So I'll describe the animation of the text. In the introduction of this video, you've seen that when the sidebar expands, the text seems to move from left to right, then back to zero position or the resting position. To be able to achieve that, I have to use the variance whereby the animation of the parent is going to affect the animation of the children. So I'll move to animation.js and create those variants here. I'll start with the parent variant. So I'm going to create a constant and export it. I'll name it sidebar variant. This is going to be an object. So I'm going to describe two states of my animations here. The initial state and the animate state. So I'll call the initial state hidden. And what I want to describe here is the opacity. I'll set it to 0. Then I also describe the animate state. Let me just call this show. So I'll describe the opacity. I now want the opacity to move to 1. The other thing I want to do is to describe the transition so that I should be able to affect on the animation of the children. First, I want to stagger the children. Then I also want the animation of this parent of my paragraphs, which are these ones here. The paragraphs are here, and the parent is this class name of a sidebar list. So I want that sidebar to animate before the children animate. So first I'll stagger the children. I'll stagger the children by 0.1 second. Then I'll animate it before children. So I'll set the when property to before children. That. The next thing is to describe the variants for the paragraphs. I'll call that variant, I'll name it sidebar children variant. Of course, I have to export this. Going to be an object, of course. I'll describe the initial state, call it hidden. First, I want to describe the opacity. Before this is rendered, I want the opacity to be 0. Then I also want to describe the X position. You've seen that this is supposed to move from the right to left, then back to the resting position. So I have to describe the X position here. I'll set it to 100. That is all for the initial state of the animation. I'll move to animate state. I'll call it show, so that it rhymes with what I have in the parent variant. I'll describe the opacity. For this case, I'll be using variance. I want the opacity to move from 0 to 0.5, then to 1. And I also describe the X position, which is going to move from 100 to negative 100. Of course, I have to use keyframes here. It will move to negative 100, then back to a resting position, which is 0, like that. So the next thing is to import this in my sidebar JS. Let me just copy one of them. So it's from animation, then animation like that. I'll copy the children variant also. Paste it there. Like that. So the next thing is to insert these variants in my divs. So I'll start with this one, which is the parent. First, I have to prefix motion, then the variant. Let me copy this. Then the initial state of the animation, I had called it hidden. Then the animate state, I had called it show. Let me save that. Then I have to introduce the variant for the children. First, I have to prefix motion. Then I have to introduce the variants. So the variant for the children is a Sidebar children variant. So let me copy that and paste it here. Like that. Let me save this. Yeah. So let's check out if the animations are happening the way we intended. Now the animations of the paragraph seems to be very fast, so I have to introduce the transition in this Sidebar children variant in the animate state. So I'll set the duration here. I'll set the duration to 1 second, like that. Okay, let's test out. Now, I did made a mistake here. The stagger children property is supposed to be inside the transition prop. So I have to copy all this and create the transition prop here. So inside the transition, I now have the stagger children property and the when animation. Let me save that. Good. Yeah. So as you can see, the animations are working as I intended. This is a very simple animation, but I hope it has inspired someone to do something new in his project. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Thank you so much for your time. See you next time.